Anybody else? Didn't get a paper. As I was working on this today, I thought, boy, I could just take chapters 8 and 9 and read those and just get a blessing out of those. This is the contest of Moses and Pharaoh. This is what God's recorded for us, how it happened. And it's exciting to read it and see what God did. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to read a while here and start with chapter 8. Well, actually, we've got to go back to 7. And verse 20. No, verse 17. Thus saith the Lord, in this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. All right, if you mark in your Bible, this is miracle number 1. Plague number 1. It's the river to blood. God says, my rod is going to be hung out over the river, and the water is going to turn to blood. How would you feel if you got up in the morning and turned on your shower and blood came out? Now, they didn't have showers, but I'm sure in the morning they went down to get water out of the river. He says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying unto Aaron, take thy rod and stretch out there. Now notice it's Aaron who's handling the rod. Take thy rod, stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon the streams, upon the rivers, upon their ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood. And that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and vessels of stone. So God says, I'm going to turn all your water into blood. And I like this. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. Time out. God said, I'm going to do something when you do what I told you to do. Are you with me? What has to happen for the water to turn to blood? Aaron has to hold out the rod, because that's what God said. If Aaron don't hold out the rod, nothing's going to happen. What's the point? God tells us what we're supposed to do, and if we don't do it, then God can't do what he's going to do. Hello. It goes on. He says in verse 20, and Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh. Pharaoh's watching this. And in the sight of his servants. And all the waters that were in the river turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died. And the river stank. Have you ever been around dead fish? One time when I was just a youngster, my dad actually took us fishing, 3 of us. And we caught a bunch of little sunnies. And like youngsters, we said, can we keep them? My dad said, yeah, they were in a bucket. We took them home and we forgot about them. Thank the Lord they were outside. But a couple days later, we went around where we had put them. You knew they were there a long time before you ever got there. That is an awful smell. And all these fish died. And it says the river stank. And the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river. There was blood throughout the land of Egypt. Now, look at the next verse. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled after that the Lord had smitten the river. If I'm understanding, for 7 days. Chapter 8. And the Lord spake unto Moses, go unto Pharaoh and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. How many of you like frogs? When you're looking at pictures, they're cute. But if you ever handled one, they're not real pleasant. Pharaoh, let my people go, or I'm going to give you frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thy house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee, and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch forth thine hand with the rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. If you're marking the plagues, this is number 2. River of the blood, frogs. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. Next verse. And the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. So we're noticing that Moses and Aaron are doing what God said, and God's doing miracles, but the magicians are duplicating God's miracles. I've said before as we've looked at this, don't ever think Satan don't have power. These are his agents. 2 miracles duplicated. So, and the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, glory over me when I shall entreat for thee, and for thy servants, for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee, that they may remain in the river only. And he said, tomorrow. He said, it be according to thy word, that thou mayest know that there is none like the Lord our God. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people. They shall remain in the river only. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. A couple of things here. Can you imagine frogs everywhere? In your house, in your bed. Several years ago, when I would take the men to men's retreat with Faith Baptist Church, some guys there decided to pull a prank on one of the assistant pastors. They thought they were being cute. They went and caught a bunch of frogs, and they put him in his sleeping bag. He was upset. Can't imagine that. Ooh. And here's what every Egyptian is facing. Ladies, you open the cupboard to get something. There's the frogs. Wherever you go outside, frogs everywhere. Knee deep, knee deep. Can you imagine the noise? And here's a question I had. Why didn't Pharaoh have his magicians remove them? They couldn't undo what God did. They could do what they could do, but God's more powerful. So now we have the frogs gone. Pharaoh hardens his heart. Hey, no more frogs, everything's cool. You imagine the people on his back? You got to do something with all these frogs. Probably the only people that weren't complaining was those who like to eat frogs' legs. Never had them. They say they taste like chicken. Everything tastes like chicken. Well, we're in verse 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man, and became lice in beast. And all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water, and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. So now we have lice. Number 3. You get the impression that Pharaoh is a real hardhead? God's turned his rivers to blood. He's plagued his land with frogs, of all creatures. And then he brings lice. when we had a large bus ministry, it seemed like every week we were getting somebody with lice. Lice is not comfortable for the one who has them, and then they spread. They're not a pleasant thing at all. And now everybody in Egypt has lice. And the animals have lice. So Pharaoh calls the magicians. Look what they've done. Can you do that? No, we can't do that. See, God put a limit on them. Pharaoh still wouldn't listen. They said, the magicians said, this is beyond us. This is more than power than we have. This is God. Pharaoh didn't care. And the Lord said unto Moses, verse 20, go down there and face Pharaoh in the morning. Let my people go that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. Now here's an interesting verse, verse 22. God says, and I will sever in that day the land of Goshen. Hey, class, who lived in Goshen? Israel. I will sever in that day the land of Goshen in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end that thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this be a sign. And the Lord did so. And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. And the land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. My wife hates flies. I mean, if there's one fly in the house, you got to get that fly. Just a fly. Yeah, but he's buzzing around. You got to kill it. Again, we were at Camp Calvary. Been a few years. But for some reason, there was an infestation of flies. We were there early in the year, and they were getting bad. And Brother Barber told us this week, for junior camp, it was horrendous. It was hot, and flies were everywhere. And you opened the windows, and they didn't have screens at that time. And the flies would get in the cabins. They were in the dining hall. You couldn't walk outside without flies buzzing all around you. You ever been there? Well, think about if it's everywhere you went, it was flies. That's what God did. And let me remind you of this. These plagues were all plagues that were aimed at the gods, some of the more prominent gods that the Egyptians worshipped. They worshipped the Nile. I don't know how much history you know, but every year they depended on the Nile River bringing sediment to their valley for their crops. And they worshiped the Nile that it would bring good sediment Frogs were one of their gods. Lice, flies. You know, Beelzebub was the god of the flies. So God is showing them that he's more powerful than their gods. So that was number 3. I'm sorry. Let me find where I was here. I turned the page. We are down to verse 28, right? 25? Yep, 25. So now they got flies. Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, "Go ye, sacrifice to your God in the land." He finally broke, huh? Oh, no. No. See, what we're going to look at, we may not get to it till next week, as we look at this. We're going to look at how Pharaoh tries to get Moses and Aaron to compromise. Notice he says here, it seems like he's broken, but he says, "Go and sacrifice to your God in the land." What he's saying to Moses is, you can have your sacrifices and things, whatever you want to do, here in Egypt. It's a compromise. I'll let you do your sacrifices, but you can only do it here. Moses said, "It is not meet so to do. For we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. Lo, shall we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians before their eyes, and will they not stone us?" Here's what he's saying. Pharaoh, we can't do that. That's not going to work, because when we sacrifice, we're going to sacrifice the animals that the Egyptians consider gods. And when they see us doing that, they're going to attack us. No deal. He says, "We will go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God as he shall command us." Moses says, no. We're going to do what God said to do. No compromise. Brother Brian reminded me of what you were saying last night. Never meet him halfway. Let's go on. Pharaoh said, "I will let you go that ye may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only ye shall not go very far away. Entreat for me." So he says, "I'll let you go in the wilderness, but you're not going 3 days' journey." And Moses said, "Behold, I go out from thee, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, from his people tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully any more in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord." And Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servants, from his people. There remained not one. Where did all these flies go? When you swat a fly, where does it go? Not a trick question. So if there are swarms of flies everywhere, I mean, thick as could be, clouds of them, and God kills them, where are they going to go? So you get to walk on flies for a while. Pharaoh was a hardhead. It says, and Moses went out from Pharaoh and treated the Lord. The Lord did according to the word of Moses. He removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh and from his servants, from his people. There remained not one. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also. Neither would he let the people go. Then the Lord said unto Moses, go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and wilt hold them still, behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, upon the sheep. There shall be a grievous murrain. You say, what's a murrain? Some kind of disease. And the Lord shall sever, hey, there it is again, between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is of the children of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, tomorrow the Lord shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died, but of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one. Hey, before God sent the flies, he said, I'm going to sever my people. And what God did was, he put up a wall. So if you left Goshen, you walked into flies. If you came out of Goshen, there were no flies. Have you ever been riding down the road and it's raining cats and dogs? Yes. And all of a sudden, that quick, you're in sunshine. Well, imagine you're walking down the road, you're in flies all over the place, and then no flies. Big wall. Same happened with the murrain. All the cattle of Egypt dying in the fields, the camels, the sheep, anything that's out in the field is dying. Over in Goshen, everything's fine. Can you imagine being an Egyptian and seeing this? I don't know how Pharaoh ever explained that to them. But God did it. All the cattle. Once again, can you imagine the stench? And how about the people that needed their cattle for food? And that was their money? How about the milk? Gone. And you know, you don't get a new cow overnight. You don't get a new sheep or a new pig or whatever it is overnight. So they're going to have to do without or go to a foreign country and trade or whatever. Moses says, tomorrow at such and such a time, God's going to do this. And God did it. Verse 7. And Pharaoh sent, and behold, there was not one of the cattle of the Israelites dead. Go there and check that out. See if that's true. Yeah, it's true. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. He did not let the people go. And the Lord said unto Moses, unto Aaron, take to you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it towards heaven in the sight of Pharaoh. And it shall become small dust in all the land of Egypt, and shall be a boil. That's number 6. Breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beast throughout all the land of Egypt. And they took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. How many in here have ever had a boil? Painful. Painful. And it's, excuse the description, but it's like a big zit. And it fills up with stuff. And it hurts. They were painful. Just one. I've known people who had them. Just one is painful. And now God says, throw the dust up in the air, and it's going to cause boils. People are going to have boils. Animals are going to have boils. They're going to be in pain. And it says the magicians couldn't do anything because they had boils. They couldn't even cure themselves. And Pharaoh hardened his heart. It says, and the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had spoken unto Moses. And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say unto him, thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, let my people go that they may serve me. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart and upon thy servants, upon thy people, and thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. For now I will stretch out my hand that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. And in very deed for this cause have I raised thee up, for to show in thee my power, that in my name may be declared throughout all the earth. As yet exaltest thou thyself against my people, that thou wilt not let them go? Behold, tomorrow, about this time, I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail. Number 7. Such has not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send therefore now and gather thy cattle. You say, wait a minute, I thought he killed the cattle. Well, I believe he killed what was in the field. And maybe they had some new cattle. But he said, whatever you have out there, you better gather. For upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die. He that feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and his cattle in the field. Time out. Ladies, can you imagine when your husband brings the cows and the horses and the pigs and whatever he has in the house? You can't bring them in here. They're going to die if I don't. And he that feared the Lord. Some of these Egyptians got the picture. They don't understand it all, but they know this God of Moses and Aaron can do what he says he's going to do. And some of them take evasive action. Some of them are slow learners. Some of them pretty quick. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in the land of Egypt, upon man, upon beast, upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven. And the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire ran along the ground. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt, so that there was hail and fire mingled with the hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every herb of the field, and brake every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Oh, I love it. This is number 8. Entreat the Lord, for it is enough, that there be no more mighty thunderings and hail, and I will let you go, and ye shall stay no longer. Sounds like he finally got it, doesn't it? And Moses said unto him, as soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto the Lord, and the thunder shall cease, neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know how that the earth is the Lord's. But as for thee and thy servants, I know that you will not yet fear the Lord God. And the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear. That means it was ready to harvest. And the flax was boiled, or bolled. You ever see the cotton bolled? We go to Florida sometimes. I see them along the field. They were ready. The wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up yet. Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh, spread abroad his hands unto the Lord, and the thunders and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured upon the earth. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders were ceased, he sinned yet more and hardened his heart, he and his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, neither would he let the children of Israel go, as the Lord had spoken by Moses. Have you ever been in a bad thunderstorm? I mean, where that lightning is just bouncing all around you. And then hail comes. And I mean, it's pouring buckets. And then it turns to hail. And in this case, I don't believe it was little hail like we see. I believe it was big hail. Big enough to kill people and animals. And you know that happens. And in the Bible, several times, God sent hail on armies to kill them. And it says fire ran along the ground. I don't know if that was lightning running around. You know that happens. Or if God sent fire, and I'm having trouble reconciling fire with rain. But lightning and rain go together. And lightning does run along the ground. And these people are, and over in Goshen, it's a bright and sunny day. Those Jews sitting over there in their lawn chairs. You see that over there? Wow. Ain't that something? Pharaoh hardens his heart. Chapter 10, and the Lord said unto Moses, go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants. By the way, don't get confused with that. God didn't harden his heart. It was because of God that Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He even says down here, and Pharaoh saw that the rain and hardened his heart. He says that I might show these my signs before him, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and of thy son's son what things I have wrought in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that ye may know how that I am the Lord. Hey, as we read the Old Testament and we get into the wilderness wanderings and judges, and how often are the Jews reminded of what God did in Egypt? Whew. How do you not tell your children what God did? There was a generation that did not tell their children. Read the first and second chapter of Judges. Those who lived with Joshua lived for the Lord and told their children. And the next generation lived for the Lord but didn't tell their children. And that third generation didn't live for the Lord. Better tell your children what God did for you. It's good to rehearse once in a while, like we did Sunday. Well, let's go on. If thou refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring the locusts into thy coast. Here we have number 8. They shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of that which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and shall eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. God says, I'm going to send the locusts, and whatever little bit's left, they're going to devour. And they shall fill thy house. You ever see a locust? They're not very attractive either. Now they're going to fill your house. And the houses of thy servants and the houses of thy Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen, since the day they were come upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's servants said unto him, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? Here's a man that is so hardened against God. He's watched his people, his country be destroyed. And yet he won't break. And Moses and Aaron brought again unto Pharaoh, and he said unto them, go serve the Lord your God. They said, let the men go. Pharaoh says to them, go serve the Lord your God. But who are they that shall go? Moses already told him, let my people go. Pharaoh says, let's negotiate. You can go, but who's going to go? Moses said, we will go with our young and with our old, and with our sons, and with our daughters, and with our flocks, and with our herds, will we go. For we must hold a feast unto the Lord. Don't meet him halfway, Brian. Here's my demand. Here's God's demand. No negotiation. Look at the next verse. He said unto them, let the Lord be so with you, as I will let you go, and your little ones. Look to it, for evil is before you. Not so. Go now, ye that are men, and serve the Lord. For that ye did desire. And they were driven out from Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, no. You wanted the men to go, and I'm going to let your men go, but only your men. You can go sacrifice to the Lord, but only your men. Another compromise. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all the hail hath left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt and rested in all the coasts of Egypt. Very grievous were they. Before them there were no such locusts as they, neither after them shall be such. For they covered the face of the whole earth. That's not the whole world, that's the whole earth of Egypt. Everywhere you looked were locusts. And it says, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land, the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not of the field through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste. And he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me this death only. And he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locusts and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coasts of Egypt. Can you imagine? One morning, the wind starts to blow, and pretty soon it blows in all these locusts, and the sky is darkened, and the earth is covered, and they're eating everything. They're in your house, they're everywhere. And Moses goes out and he entreats the Lord, take away these locusts, and that quick. They go into the sea. They're gone. You can't find a locust. And then number 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose there any from his place for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. How many of you have ever visited a cavern? Did they turn the lights out? Was it a darkness you could feel? I mean, you could see nothing. We were on a train ride up in North Carolina in the mountains, looking at the leaves, and they came over the loudspeaker there, and they said, now we're going to go through a tunnel, and it's going to get dark. Don't be afraid. Everything's okay. But it's really going to be dark. And we got in that tunnel. Now, there were no cell phones. Okay? And when we got in that tunnel, it got dark. You could feel it. You couldn't see the person next to you. That's how this was. And it wasn't just through a tunnel, and it wasn't just while they turned the lights out and turned the switch back on. 3 days. They couldn't go anywhere. They had to stay in the bed. You get up, you got to stumble around. They couldn't see anybody. They could talk, but they couldn't see anybody. 3 days. Dark. I don't know about you. I don't like dark. I like light. Dark is spooky. 3 days. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, go ye serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones go with you. So now he's saying, okay, you can take your families, but you can't take any of your herds or flocks or anything. Well, that's not the demand. Their wives, their children, their flocks, everything they have. Pharaoh says, now, here's what I'll do for you. Oh, you're going to bargain with God, huh? You ever tried to do that? Bargain with God? How'd that work out? Moses said, thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind. For thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God. And we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart and would not let them go. Pharaoh said unto him, get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more. For in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, thou hast spoken well. I will see thy face no more. We don't have time to go into it, but number 10, death of the firstborn. And we all know the story. Put the blood. Pastor Fidena showed the picture. And I liked how he put that cross up there because that's the symbol. When I see the blood, I'll pass over. And that night, all the firstborn of Egypt, firstborn of animals, firstborn of people, died, including Pharaoh's firstborn. And Pharaoh didn't just say, you may go. Now he said, get out of here. Go. Take your women, take your children, take your animals. Get out of here. Next time we'll talk about the compromises. And I want you to think about that. Think about people who try to get us to compromise, because we face it all the time. Father, thank you for Moses, Aaron, and their boldness. They're having to confront and challenge the most powerful man in the world of their day. And they had to do it time and time again. 10 times. And yet they never backed down. They stood firm in your word and refused to compromise. They set an example. And might we follow that example? In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, you're dismissed.